Consulting podcast with our host, Scott Smith. Scott, what's going on? And you know what? I talked about all the horror stories I've had for hiring teams offshore. Not a fun situation. A lot of horror stories, probably three or four horror stories. Talk about somebody like me who's struggling through this and wants to be able to scale more quickly by hiring offshore teams, how you can make me the hero when it comes to something like that.
Absolutely, Neil. So it's a good question, right? How does a company that is struggling with their offshore team relationship really maximize and maybe turn that around, right? So there are a couple of keys. The first is it's helpful if you start with the right team to begin with. That really is one of the keys. And you do that by making sure you know who you're working with. And, you can check references and you can look up other resources, see other work that they've done, things that they've done for other customers, maybe other people in your similar space. But I think the best, fastest way to do it is to come through a consultant like myself that has a wealth of experience and a ton of connections and knows what he's setting you up for and who he's setting you up with. That's the first thing you can do, is make sure that the team you're working with really is a trustworthy, trusted team. And if you have that kind of team, then many of the issues that a company may face with trustworthiness, or with a lack of productivity, or with a lack of success overall, many of those things are fairly easily overcome. I would say the second thing that you probably need to do to make sure that a relationship with an offshore team, an offshore partner that isn't going well, gets resolved, is clear communication. You have to have clear communication, set the right expectations, help them understand how things are supposed to look when it's done, and give them a voice, give them an opportunity to tell you their thoughts, their ideas, their opinions about what you're doing and about what your expectations are. And when they realize they have a voice, they're going to take what your vision is and they're going to make it something that is beyond your wildest dreams, because they are so creative and so powerful and so strong with what they bring to the table.
And it has to do with someone like you, because at the end of the day, what if it's someone like me? I really don't want to manage them, Scott. All I want them to do is, I create my SOP. Here it goes. Are there people offshore to help me on that end too? To have the project manager work with the team, the offshore team, so that it might be offshore that really isn't going to waste my time after I create the systems and processes.
Sure, absolutely. So one of the things that you should have, well, there's a couple of things actually. So the first thing I would say is you have to recognize that it's your business. You ultimately own the relationship with that offshore team. And you can't really, shrug that off. But at the same time, you can bring somebody in to help manage that relationship and set expectations and make sure that KPIs are being met, that things are being done the way you want them to do. But again, ultimately, it's your business, right? So you are responsible for what's going to go out there to the public and for the service that your clients are going to receive. So recognizing that you ultimately own it, you bring somebody in to help manage the relationship. You help them to be successful. You want to set them up for success. You mentioned SOPs, having clear SOPs, right? Lining those out clearly, making sure that each step is simple, it's outlined, the expectations are set and clear. That's so important as far as setting them up for success. You don't want to set a team up like that to fail. You want to set them up to succeed. And you do that with clear standards, clear communication, and a very strong management oversight.
By helping companies scale offshore, how much money and profit does a company end up getting because of something like percentage wise? You see a lot of growth based on doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. So it really depends on, where you go and the size of team that you build, but often scaling to a larger size brings more savings. So a company can save, 30, 40, 70%. I had a client that I worked with at the end of last year. and they were, doing something onshore that once it moved offshore, it literally saved them between 60 and 70% of the onshore cost. So it really just depends on what they're moving, what they're trying to accomplish, but the percentage of savings and what that savings translates to is, right to the bottom line. So you go from spending so much money on an onshore option, and when you move that to an offshore team, then you automatically bring in those cost savings. And there are things that you have to consider and make sure that it's structured properly. But again, that's why you have somebody like me to come in and help you get it set up so that you can maximize those cost savings.
So at the end of the day, that business owner like myself will be smiling, saying, I've scaled, I had the right people, and my system and my company looks the same, meaning there's nothing, I didn't miss a beat, and maybe improved another service to do. Because ultimately, offshore teams can create tasks that people in the United States don't want to do. Really
So
do.
that's absolutely true. I noticed I have been hiring for a certain role, and I noticed that there has been a lack of engagement, even in people that have applied. I've never seen that lack of engagement in any of the offshore teams that I have built or managed over the years. And it's really an advantage to the business owner. You end up smiling, you absolutely end up smiling because not only are you saving money, but you're doing things better and you're doing things in a more cost-effective way and you're strengthening your offering. And when you do it right, there is no seam. It's absolutely seamless and it's invisible to the client on the other end.
Okay. Best place we can find information on you, Scott. Where can we go?
So you can go to my website, which is akadaconsulting.com, AKHADA consulting.com.
All right. That's a special simulcast. And you'll hit